I knew something was off the second I stepped into that conference room. Greg wouldn't look at me. His jaw was tight, arms crossed like he was doing me some favor just by being there. Across from him sat Laura from HR, neat little bun, notepad ready, eyes already full of judgment. I'd barely sat down before she spoke. "Emma, we've reviewed your latest project reports," she started, voice low but stiff. "There are discrepancies we need to address." I blinked. Discrepancies. Greg slid a manila folder across the table without a word. Inside were printed reports I'd submitted over the last few months. My campaign results, revenue growth charts, client feedback logs. All of it looked familiar, except now there were red circles and sticky notes slapped on top like some kind of damn crime scene. Some of these numbers appear to have been manipulated, Laura said, watching me like she expected me to cry or confess. "I didn't fudge anything," I said. My voice was sharp. I didn't care. Every number in there has documentation, screenshots, system logs, client emails. Greg finally spoke, his tone ice cold. "We've heard that before." "From who?" I snapped, because it sure as hell wasn't me. "Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from." Laura cleared her throat. "We're not here to debate the data right now. We're here to present options. You can resign or—" I opened it and saw the word in bold, right away. Termination. I looked up slowly. "You're firing me?" Greg didn't flinch. "We have reason to believe your reporting can't be trusted. It's best if we part ways quietly." It was a gut punch. 7 years with this company, and this is how they repay me. Like I'm just disposable. I felt the heat rise in my face, but I didn't cry. I clenched my jaw, shoved the folder aside, and sat back in my chair. "You think I'm walking out without saying a word?" I asked, my voice flat. "You're dead wrong." Laura's pen froze mid-scribble. "I've been collecting data too," I continued. "Every single change made to my metrics. Every login that wasn't mine. Every client email confirming results. I've got receipts, months of them." Greg narrowed his eyes. "Are you threatening us?" "No," I said, standing up. "I'm fighting back." I grabbed my bag, shoved the termination folder inside without looking at it, and walked straight out the door. They weren't expecting that. Hell, neither was I. But if they thought I was going down quietly, they'd picked the wrong damn woman. I didn't go home after that meeting. I drove straight to the Starbucks on 6th and Main, ordered the strongest thing they had, and sat down with my laptop. I needed to see the numbers again, my numbers. 7 years I'd given to that company. Started as a junior analyst fresh out of college. Built my way up to campaign lead without skipping a beat. I'd pulled all-nighters, bailed out teammates, cleaned up messes from sloppy interns to lazy execs. I'd hit every target, brought in new clients, outperformed half the damn department. And still, somehow, I was the one being accused of cooking data. I opened my performance dashboard and started digging. The first red flag had popped up in March. A Q2 review email from Greg said my conversion rates were below projections, even though I'd seen a spike that month. At the time, I brushed it off, figured maybe I misread the numbers or they were still updating the system. But now, I looked again. Everything I submitted was backed by receipts. Client approval emails, campaign screenshots, CRM exports. Yet the company dashboard had flatlined my results. Pages I knew were performing well were suddenly marked under review. And it wasn't just one report. It was every single one since March. So I did what any pissed-off, cornered woman would do. I started pulling logs, daily exports, time-stamped reports, internal message threads. I downloaded everything. A few days later, I cornered Tyler near the break room. He was the analytics manager, cocky guy, always walking around like his hoodie and beard made him some tech genius. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone casual. "You notice anything weird with the performance dashboard lately?" He didn't look up from his phone. "Define weird." "Like numbers being changed after they're submitted. Pages suddenly disappearing from campaign overviews. Stuff like that." He shrugged. "It's a messy system. It happens." "You're the guy who manages the system," I said. "You telling me you haven't noticed the same pages being altered repeatedly?" He finally looked up, smirking. "Look, Emma, I don't have time for conspiracy theories. If you're under review, maybe focus on that instead." He walked off like I'd asked about the weather. That's when I knew. This wasn't about one report or one campaign. It was bigger than that. I started tracking everything, mine and others. I'd come in early, stay late, grab coffee with coworkers just to get them talking. I watched who got credit for which projects, who got promoted, who got quietly pushed aside. And over time, a pattern started to form. Men were climbing the ladder fast. Guys like Andrew and Josh were getting high-visibility accounts with less experience than me or Jenna or Rachel. Meanwhile, our wins were diluted. Our names dropped off final reports. We were always part of a team, never leads. I ran a data comparison between 6 male and 6 female campaign leads over the last 12 months. Same workload, similar results. But the men had higher ratings across the board, better bonuses, faster promotions. Every damn time. I cross-checked login data. Some of the changes in my reports had been made under Greg's credentials. Others came from anonymous admin accounts that didn't line up with any department I knew. I kept screenshots, backups, screen recordings. I stored them on a hard drive and a private cloud. No way I was letting this vanish. It started eating into everything. I barely slept. I skipped happy hours, canceled weekend plans. My boyfriend started asking if I was cheating. I wasn't, I just had a bigger war to fight. And the more I found, the angrier I got. They weren't just screwing with me, they were screwing with all of us. The women in that company had been climbing a ladder someone else was greasing. I could have walked, could have taken their damn severance and disappeared. But every time I thought about it, I pictured the smug look on Greg's face, the way Tyler brushed me off, the way Laura slid that termination folder like she was doing me a favor, number I wasn't going anywhere. I printed everything. I organized files, indexed timestamps, color-coded the changes. It looked like a court case by the time I was done. I knew it wasn't over. Not even close. But I was ready now, and I was done playing nice. 2 days later, I walked back into that same conference room, this time with a flash drive in my pocket and a stack of color-coded folders under my arm. I didn't wait to be invited in. I just pushed the door open and sat down across from Greg and Laura like I owned the damn place. Greg didn't say a word. Laura gave a tight smile, like she was bracing for a car crash. "Emma," she started, sliding a folder toward me. "We've reviewed your case again. Leadership is offering you 2 weeks severance, plus a positive reference if you choose to resign voluntarily." I didn't touch the folder. "So you're still pretending nothing's wrong?" Greg finally looked up. "It's a standard offer. We're trying to avoid unnecessary complications." I pulled out my own folder, flipped it open, then explained these. He glanced at them, uninterested. But Laura leaned in. Her eyebrows twitched the second she saw the timestamps and usernames printed beside the altered data logs. "These are performance reports that were changed after submission. All under Greg's login," I said, tapping the top page. "You can cross-check with the system audit. It's all there." "Anyone with admin access could have made those changes," Greg said flatly. "That doesn't prove anything." "Oh, it proves plenty," I shot back. "Like how every change lowered my numbers, or how the alterations only ever affected female employees in the department." Laura's hand froze over her notepad. I pulled out another set of documents, side-by-side charts comparing project performance, gender, and end-of-quarter ratings. These 6 guys got top ratings for projects that I or other women led. Then 2 months later, they're promoted. Meanwhile, we get downgraded or labeled needs improvement. Want to guess who made the rating adjustments? Greg didn't blink. "You're making assumptions." "No," I said. "I'm making a case, and I've got enough to go public if I need to." Laura's voice dropped. "Emma, we need to be careful how we proceed." I looked straight at her. "I've been careful, for months, while this company quietly cut women down and handed credit to underqualified men. I documented everything, logins, timestamps, before and after versions of reports, internal emails. I even have system backups saved externally in case this all accidentally gets wiped." Greg's jaw clenched. Laura looked pale. "I'm not here to take your severance," I said. "I'm here to put this on record." There was a long pause. Then Greg leaned back and crossed his arms. "If you think you're going to bring this company down over some misunderstood data." "I don't need to bring it down," I cut in. but I will make sure every single person who's been cheated gets to see the truth. Starting with the legal department. Laura stood up slowly. We'll need time to review what you've brought. You have it, I said. I'm not going anywhere. I collected my folders, shoved the severance offer into the bottom of my bag without looking at it, and stood. Greg didn't say a word. Laura didn't meet my eyes. I walked out of that room not smiling, not relieved, but satisfied. I'd thrown the first real punch. Now they had to decide whether to take the hit or swing back. I didn't even make it back to my desk before my phone buzzed. Carla. I ducked into the stairwell, shut the door behind me, and answered. Please tell me you've got something. Her voice was low but urgent. They're launching an internal investigation. Quiet for now, but legal's already flagged Greg's access logs. Your evidence lined up with some complaints we got months ago but couldn't prove? I exhaled hard, gripping the railing. So they're finally taking it seriously? They have to. You made it impossible not to. For the first time in weeks, I felt something crack through the fog of exhaustion. Hope. Not much, but enough to breathe again. Listen, Carla said, dropping her voice even lower. You need to be careful. If Greg gets wind of what legal's doing, he'll go scorched earth. He's got connections. Laura, too. They'll try to cover their tracks, maybe even wipe systems. Start backing up everything now, off the network. Already done, I said. They'd have to burn the damn building down to erase what I've got. We hung up, and I stood there for a minute, letting it sink in. This wasn't just a one-woman crusade anymore. The machine was turning, but I could already hear the gears grinding back. Then I started drafting a press release. Just in case. If they buried this investigation, I'd go public. I'd had enough of watching people like Greg rise while women got stepped on and shoved out the side door. A knock on my cubicle wall pulled me out of it. Lisa, VP of Product. Sharp dresser, sharper mind. Barely spoke to anyone outside her circle. She motioned for me to follow. I grabbed my things and followed her to a glass office with blinds drawn. She shut the door behind us. You've been digging, she said. I didn't even deny it. Yeah, and I'm not stopping. She nodded slowly, then slid a folder across her desk. Inside were screenshots, emails, reports. Same story, different department. They've been doing it to my team too, she said. Different methods, same outcome. Women's projects rerouted. Credit reassigned. Promotions stalled. I've been building this case for 6 months. I stared at the folder, then at her. Why come to me now? Because you lit the fuse, she said. And because I'm tired of playing it safe. We sat in silence for a second. Then I said, You ready to burn it down? She didn't blink. I brought the gasoline. We stayed another hour piecing together timelines, overlapping data, comparing notes. Her findings filled in every gap I had. Together, it painted a pattern, intentional, targeted, corporate-wide. For the first time, I didn't feel alone in the fight. I felt dangerous. When I left her office, I wasn't scared. I wasn't even tired anymore. I was ready. The summons hit my inbox just before 8 a.m. Subject line. Emergency review meeting, 9 a.m. No body text. Just a calendar invite with Greg, Laura, 2 legal reps I didn't know, and a name that made me pause. Judith Alston, VP of Ethics and Compliance. I didn't bother responding. I grabbed my folders, backed up the shared drive again, and walked into that room with my chin up and jaw locked. They were already seated when I got there. Greg, arms crossed, face hard. Laura, eyes down. 2 suits from legal, and Judith at the head of the table, flipping through a file like she was already exhausted. I sat. No one said a word for a solid 10 seconds. Then Greg leaned forward. This meeting is to address serious allegations made by an employee with a known history of performance issues. I let him talk. She's accused management of falsifying performance data, promoting unqualified staff based on gender bias, and manipulating records using administrative tools she doesn't have full access to or understanding of. Still talking. We believe these accusations stem from a personal grievance after receiving disciplinary feedback. Stop, I said, loud enough to cut through the air. I'm not going to sit here and let you spin this. Greg's nostrils flared, but Judith raised a hand. Let her speak. I opened my folder and slid a stack of documents across the table, one by one. These are report logs from our internal system. Each of these shows data altered after submission, always to downgrade results from female-led projects. These aren't bugs or misunderstandings. These are deliberate edits made under admin credentials. I flipped to the next set. Here's the kicker. Every change was made under Greg's user ID or a masked admin account registered under his department. Want timestamps? I got those too. Want matching Slack messages? They're in the appendix. Judith started reading. One of the lawyers leaned forward, scanning the audit trails. Greg didn't move. Coincidence isn't a defense here, I said. These aren't isolated incidents. Lisa Parker in product has similar findings. So do other women in data, strategy, and client services. This is a pattern, your pattern. Greg finally spoke. She's twisting the numbers. She's angry because she didn't get a promotion, and now she's trying to burn down the house. You already did that, I snapped. I'm just turning the lights on so everyone can see it. Laura finally looked up. Her face was pale, mouth slightly open like she wanted to say something but didn't dare. Judith turned to her. Laura, were you aware of these data alterations? She hesitated. I saw anomalies. I assumed they were system errors. You didn't ask questions, I said, because asking would have meant doing something. The room went quiet. Even Greg didn't jump in this time. I leaned forward. I know what you're all thinking. You're wondering how much of this I'm willing to expose. Whether I'll go public, whether I've already gone to the press. Let me be clear, I'm not here to beg for my job back. I'm here because women in this company have been undermined, silenced, and forced out while men get praised for our work. I'm not going to be another silent exit. One of the lawyers cleared his throat. We'll need time to independently review these materials. Take it, I said, but don't take too long. There's more coming. Greg shifted in his chair, for the first time looking like he wasn't in control. His fingers drummed the table, jaw twitching. You really think you're going to win this? He asked, voice tight. I stood. I already did. You just don't know it yet. I walked out, not waiting for Judith's reply. I could feel their eyes on my back, heavy with tension and damage control. Let them scramble. The match was lit. By the end of that week, I could feel the shift. People weren't making eye contact in the halls. Conversations stopped when I walked into the room. I wasn't invisible. I was radioactive. It hit hardest when Ryan pulled me aside after our Monday team sync. Emma, he said quietly, glancing around before speaking. People are talking. They think you're out for blood, I crossed my arms. If that's what it takes to get the truth out, yeah, I guess I am. He looked uncomfortable, like he wanted to be somewhere else. I'm not saying you're wrong, but this... He waved vaguely toward the office. It's tearing teams apart. You've got people picking sides. Some folks think you're just trying to get Greg fired. Others are scared they'll be next. Next for what? Being honest. That's not how they see it. I stared at him, waiting for the rest. But he just shoved his hands in his pockets and walked away. No eye contact. No goodbye. I'd spent years here, building trust, earning respect, leading quietly. Now I was just the problem. I headed straight to HR. I wasn't letting this rot in silence. Laura was alone in her office, typing something into her laptop. She looked up when I knocked, then sighed. We're not supposed to be meeting without legal present, she said. Then don't talk, I said, walking in and closing the door behind me. She didn't argue. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You know what Greg did. You've seen the reports. So why are you still standing behind him? Laura sat back in her chair and folded her hands in her lap. I'm not standing behind anyone. Then why does it feel like you're trying to bury this? Her voice dropped. Because this company doesn't care about what's right. It cares about survival. So you're choosing survival over integrity. She hesitated. I don't know what I'm choosing anymore. That hit harder than I expected. She glanced down, voice barely audible. They're already rewriting the narrative, saying you manipulated the data, that you're bitter, unstable. They're building a case, one that makes you look like the threat. My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. And you're just gonna let them? I don't know how to stop it, she said, sounding more tired than defensive. You start by speaking the truth. On record, she didn't respond, just stared at her desk like the wood grain might give her an answer. I walked out without another word. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. The silence was loud enough. That night, I met Lisa at a diner off Interstate 44. She brought her laptop, a folder stuffed with printouts, and a look that said she hadn't slept in 3 days. "They're circling the wagons," she said, "shifting blame, erasing logs. Greg's trying to push a narrative that you've had it out for him since last year's promotion cycle." I laughed, but it was hollow. Of course he is. Can't defend himself with facts, so he's going for character assassination. Lisa nodded. "We need to escalate, publicly, if it comes to that." We sat for hours, strategizing, trading notes, reviewing witness lists. She had people on her side, quiet ones, scared ones, but they were watching, waiting to see what happened next. But as we wrapped up, the weight finally hit me. The late nights, the whispers, the looks, friends turning cold, mentors going silent. The line between right and ruin had gotten razor thin. Lisa reached across the table. "You okay?" I stared at my coffee, half drained and cold. "I don't know anymore, but I wasn't stopping, not now." Someone in legal must have tipped them off because I hadn't sent anything yet. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning. Headline: "Employee blows whistle on gender bias and data tampering at Rook and Foster." I was still brushing my teeth when my phone lit up with notifications. LinkedIn, Twitter, texts from people I hadn't heard from in years. I spit into the sink, wiped my mouth, and stared at the screen. There it was, my name. Full spelling, full photo, front and center. I sat down on the edge of the tub and scrolled. They quoted sections of my findings, even mentioned Lisa's department. No names, but the implication was loud and clear. This wasn't just about one bad manager. This was structural. I got dressed in a haze and headed into work knowing I'd just walked into a different kind of fire. People didn't whisper anymore. They straight up stared. Some wouldn't make eye contact. Others gave tight little nods like I was walking to the electric chair. By lunch, I had 4 media requests in my inbox, 1 voicemail from a news producer, and 2 reporters who showed up in the lobby. Security had to escort them out. I was sitting at my desk, staring at my locked computer screen, when my phone rang again. Internal extension, unknown ID. "Emma Carter," I answered, keeping my voice flat. "This is Carolyn Bishop," a calm, clipped voice said. "I'm the CEO. I'd like to see you, conference room 14. Now." I stood, grabbed my bag, and walked. Quick pause. Before we keep going, drop a comment with what you'd do if your name leaked in the press like this. Carolyn was already there when I arrived. Tall, composed, not a single hair out of place. She was flanked by 2 assistants and a thick file on the table. I sat down across from her and didn't wait. "If you're going to fire me, just say it." She looked me dead in the eye. "You've put this company in a very difficult position." "No, your management did that," I said. "I just refuse to stay quiet about it." She didn't flinch. "We've had 3 clients call us in the last 24 hours. 2 are threatening to pull contracts. 1 wants immediate reassurances that none of this affects their campaigns." I leaned forward. "And does it?" Her expression cracked, just slightly. "No? Then maybe they should be thanking me." Carolyn sat back, folded her arms, and let out a long breath. "What you exposed was real." Legal confirmed Greg had been using backdoor admin access to modify performance records. Several department heads either knew or ignored it. HR failed to act. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. She continued. "We've already placed Greg on unpaid leave pending formal review. Laura's under internal investigation." "Good start." Carolyn cracked a slight smile at that. Then it vanished. "But now we have to clean this mess up, publicly and internally. That's where you come in." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I want you to help us rebuild," she said. "Not just for PR, for real. I'm offering you a promotion, head of performance analytics. We'll implement a new tracking system, overseen by an ethics subcommittee, and I want you on it." I didn't respond right away. This wasn't the kind of offer I expected. Not a gag order, not a threat. A seat at the table. "I don't trust you," I said finally. "You shouldn't," she said. "Not yet." That actually made me pause. She added, "But I trust the results. And you got them. Now I need you to help us fix what we broke." I sat back and crossed my arms. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice even. "I'll think about it." Carolyn nodded, stood, and left the room without another word. I didn't move for a full minute, just sat there, the silence deafening. I wasn't sure if I'd just won or walked into a bigger fight. The next morning, Carolyn called me back into the same conference room. No assistants, no legal team, no paper trail. Just the two of us and a fresh pot of coffee between us, like this was some casual office chat. I wasn't in the mood for small talk. She didn't waste time either. I meant what I said yesterday, she started, hands clasped on the table. You didn't just expose Greg. You saved this company from a lawsuit we wouldn't have survived. I nodded but didn't say anything. I wanted to hear the pitch before I reacted. Carolyn reached into her folder and slid a single page toward me. Here's what I'm offering. Immediate promotion to Director of Analytics and Oversight. Full back pay for the months your metrics were altered. And a permanent seat on the Internal Ethics Committee I'm forming. I read it line by line. The title was real. The pay bump was solid. The terms were clear. So, I said, looking up, why not just write me a check and move on? Quiet settlement, NDA, the usual. Carolyn leaned back, her tone even. Because this isn't just about fixing the image, it's about stopping the rot. I raised an eyebrow. Now you care about the rot? She didn't blink. I always cared. But the truth is, I wasn't seeing it clearly until now. Greg and a few others built a culture of protection for themselves, not the company. They made sure problems didn't rise high enough for people like me to see. I tapped the contract lightly with my index finger. You knew he had power. You just didn't know how deep it went. Exactly. She paused, then added, Greg's not the only one who'll be removed. We've opened reviews across multiple departments. You opened that door. Now I need someone inside who's not afraid to tell the truth, even when it costs something. It should have felt like a win, but all I felt was cautious. I looked her dead in the eye. You know I'm not going to play nice just because you gave me a title. She nodded. Good. That's exactly why I picked you. I sat back, arms crossed. You give me this role, I'm not doing it halfway. I want full access to the analytics infrastructure, historical audit logs, HR records tied to promotions, demotions, and transfers for the last 5 years. If you want me to clean this up, I need to see everything. Carolyn didn't hesitate. Done. And no leash, I added. You try to spin this into a PR campaign, I walk. And I take every file with me. She smiled faintly. Understood. I held her gaze for another beat, then slid the contract into my folder. All right, let's fix this mess. She stood and extended her hand. Welcome to the top. I didn't shake it. Not yet. I wasn't there to make friends. I was there to make change. We walked out together, silent but deliberate. People turned as we passed, some confused, some stunned. Greg's office was already dark. His nameplate was gone. Lisa was waiting outside the elevator when I stepped in. She raised her eyebrows. Well, I'm in, I said. She grinned. Good, we've got work to do. I nodded, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was climbing uphill alone. I had backup, authority, and the clearance to finally tear down what they'd been hiding for years. The fight wasn't over, but I had leverage now, real leverage. By the end of the quarter, we'd rolled out the new system company-wide. Every campaign, every rating, every bonus calculation, transparent and traceable. No more backdoor edits. No more shadow promotions. You could log in and see your data side by side with your peers. No more guessing where you stood. And people noticed. Morale jumped. So did retention. Women stopped quietly quitting and started getting promoted. People who'd been passed over 5 times in a row were suddenly being pulled into leadership training. Clients sent notes thanking us for rebuilding trust. We didn't fix the culture overnight, but we cracked it open, loudly. Then came Greg. He filed a lawsuit, wrongful termination, defamation, hostile work environment. The whole damn book. My legal team didn't flinch, neither did I. We buried him in documentation, logins, emails, audit trails, even old Slack messages where he bragged about massaging numbers. His lawyer dropped the case in under a month. Greg vanished. No LinkedIn updates, no job postings, no public statements, just gone. The man who built his career off erasing women's work got erased himself. Lisa and I stood in the break room the day the case closed. She poured 2 coffees and slid one to me. "So," she said, "we done?" I shook my head. "We're just getting started. Quick break. If you've ever had to fight to be heard at work, drop a comment. Let's talk about it." We expanded the ethics committee, brought in junior staff, new hires, people who'd been silenced before. We made the reporting process anonymous, then built it into onboarding. I met with department heads every month. If something smelled off, we dug. No exceptions, and for the first time, people stopped whispering. They spoke up, loud, confident. The work was relentless, but it was real. And somewhere in all of it, I realized this was never about Greg. It was about everyone after him. The people who'd stay. The ones who hadn't even been hired yet. Greg was just a crack in the surface. I took him out, then I started swinging at the foundation.